Well, it's 11 o'clock and let's get started. Good morning. My name is Jan Schmitz from the Edmonton Pride Seniors Group. It's April 27th, and thank you all for attending our Aging with Pride discussion group for the LGBTQ2S+ seniors and their allies. Thank you too to our partners SAGE and the Pride Center of Edmonton. Before I introduce our speaker, I must acknowledge that we are located on Treaty 6 territory and respect the histories, the languages, and cultures of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and all First Peoples of Canada, whose presence continues to enrich our lives. A couple of housekeeping items. I must let you know that the session is being recorded for future use on our YouTube channel. If you don't wish your image to be recorded, please close your video feed. Secondly, I'll remind you of the code of conduct outlined in your Zoom invitation and underscore a couple of points. Please respect the speaker by remaining muted during the talk. We will unmute you for the question and answer period. Please be mindful of the time limitations and keep your questions and comments as brief as possible so that everyone can participate. And please respect the confidentiality of personal information. And now, with great pleasure, I would like to introduce, and he needs no introduction, Eric Storey. Throughout his professional career, Eric volunteered with nonprofit and social development programs. Following his 2007 retirement from the industrial sector, he decided to obtain a Bachelor of Social Work degree as one of his retirement projects. He views volunteering in the community as not only an opportunity to give back, but also a way to engage with friends and meet new people with common interests. He is focused on social justice issues, primarily around those experienced by seniors, at-risk and in-care youth, and sexual and gender minority population. The most handsome Eric Storey.
Wow. Okay, I have to add that piece onto my bio. I hadn't been there before. So just let me putz around here for a second to start sharing my screen, and then we'll get ready to go. There, hopefully that's it. Okay. So as Heather mentioned, as Jan mentioned, getting a BSW, part of that is to do a practicum, and the practicum that I did at SAGE, the SAGE Seniors Association, and I hadn't really planned on working, but they asked me if I would come in part-time to fill in for other social workers who were away or on it. And so it was a really interesting experience, and I loved working with seniors. But what this presentation is about is a lot of things, talking with other social workers, common problems or challenges that we've seen seniors experience. And so that's basically it. The other thing is that I've tried to be as logical and methodical as possible, but there is inevitably a certain amount of bouncing around. So what I'd ask is, if you have any questions, could you please keep them to the end, or put them into the chat, and we'll get to them at the end. But there's a chance that if you have a question on something now, I might be talking about that in a little bit later. As I say, I try to be as organized as possible, but as organized as possible has got its own limitations. So what we're going to talk about today is anticipating age 65. Now, some of us, age 65 is a long view in the rear view mirror, but hopefully really interested in community and people talking to each other. So if you know somebody who's coming up to age 65, or if some of the things that I talk about you think might affect a friend of yours, please do share it. It's really important. Retiring is a different career. It's another career, and there are things that we need to pay attention to. So hopefully you'll be able to share things as they come along. So turning 65, and the question isn't wait till you turn 65 and then start doing stuff. It's what you do to prepare for turning 65. Government of Canada, to apply for old age security and Canada Pension Plan, you need to apply, well, you can apply the day after your 64th birthday. And that's what I recommend for an awful lot of people, because complications can happen. There was one gentleman whose I worked with, whose parents lived in a very warm location. So he spent every year from November to March visiting his parents and working down there and back up to Edmonton. When he applied for his pensions, Service Canada said, "You've been out of the country an awful lot. What we would like is a list of every year when you left the country and when you returned." A massive task. Who remembers that? We finally managed to get it solved, but that took about 2 or 3 months, and could have, fortunately, this was before he turned 65, so we could get it sorted out. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, your income tax filings need to be up to date, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Alberta seniors benefit. Actually, for all of us, when we turn 65, the one benefit that we all qualify for is 30% copay on prescriptions. So the government pays 70%, we pay 30%. One of the cautions is that those are people who are on AISH or CPP disability. When they turn 65, that has to be converted into pensions. So again, there needs to be an application process. And just one little hiccup on that some people don't realize is, I think on AISH, most medications are paid 100%. But when you turn 65 and you go on to the Alberta Blue Cross free program for seniors, you suddenly have to pay 30% of your prescription costs. So that's about it. This is just conceptually the way pensions are stacked, assuming that you don't have any private pensions of your own. The first is old age security. Everybody is entitled to old age security, whether you've worked or not. And it's based on having lived 40 years in Canada. So if you're from another country and you've lived in Canada for 30 years, you would qualify for 3/4 of the old age security pension. And then the next is added onto that is the Canada Pension Plan. That depends on how long you've worked and what you've paid into the program. Next is guaranteed income support, which is for low income seniors applying to the federal government for an additional pension. And then finally, the Alberta Seniors Benefit, which is for low income seniors, lower income seniors as well. If you had no private pensions and qualified for all of this, you'd be looking at somewhere between $1,900 and $2,000 a month in pensions. Every one of them is different. I mean, if you go to the excuse me, Alberta Seniors Benefit page and say, how much can I qualify for? Well, there's an awful lot of qualifications there, and it depends. But it's important to know that it's there. The other thing is that all of these pensions are also based on pensions the pension year starts July 1st, goes to June 30th, and that is based on, so the pension that you'll be receiving in July of this year is based on the income that you received in 2021. So if you were working in 2021 and retired December 25th, you might have a higher income for the year 2021, which might disqualify you for some of these pensions. So it's important there is a form that you can send to Service Canada that says, hey, yeah, I made more money last year, but I'm retiring, and this year my income is not going to be anything near that. So these are things that, again, sometimes it works. The people at Service Canada, and particularly Alberta Seniors Benefit, are absolutely wonderful. I mean, I slam government officials all the time, but honestly, Alberta Seniors Benefit is probably the most helpful government agency I've ever talked to. And Service Canada can also be very, very helpful. However, you know, if you need a little bit of help, there are social workers who deal with seniors who are well familiar with most of these items. So that's it. When you can start taking your pensions. Old age security, minimum age is 65. You can delay it until you're 70. If you choose to delay it, each month that you delay, the increase is 0.6%. So, and the amount is adjusted every quarter. But right now, the base for somebody age 65 is $648. If you were to delay that until age 70, it would be $882. So if you have a part-time job and, you know, right now for the next couple of years, you may say, I want to delay that until I turn 70. Similarly, with the Canada Pension Plan, it nominally starts at age 65, but you can take it early, in which case they deduct 0.6% per month for how many months that you take it early, or they will add 0.7% per month if you, for each month you delay it after 65. Right now, if you were starting at age 65 and you had contributed the maximum over the maximum number of years, your maximum pension would be $1,253. But the average of people receiving CPP is about $780 a month right now. So you can see, you know, you've got some flexibilities. It depends on your personal situation when you want to start drawing out these pensions. And again, there's a few other things that come up. So the eligibilities, excuse me, for lower incomes Albertans. Sorry, I should have mentioned Alberta Seniors Benefit has got some other things that are available for lower income seniors. If your incomes are under about $30,000, they've also got some modest amounts of dental optical insurance. So that's fine. And again, if you're a lower income senior, the Alberta Special Needs Assistance can provide actually some really interesting benefits. A subsidy for a microwave, a bed, other things, some help with, you know, if needed, help in house cleaning or maintenance, those sorts of things, and extended coverage for dental work, dentures, hearing aids, and so on. Also, if you are a lower income, knowing that if you've got a lot of prescriptions, paying 30% of the prescription costs can certainly add up. So there is a way to actually limit the amount of that 30% copay for each individual. Veterans, war allowance. A lot of people don't realize that they may, if their spouse was in the military, they may qualify for some benefits, of some veteran benefits, and those may allow for some extra money, benefits or services, such as housekeeping, personal care, or health support. It's just important to remember as senior, you know, who was in the military or whose spouses was in the military, to think about that. Disability tax credit. This is a bit of a challenge always. A lot of people will see an ad in the newspaper or in a senior's publication that the government may owe you thousands of dollars for the disability tax, and we'll help you claim it. Well, yes, they will help you claim it. Now, a couple things. Disability tax credit is exactly that. It's a credit. So you figure out how much tax you owe, and then you can subtract the disability tax credit from it. So if you owe, they won't pay you the difference. You can only use it to reduce the amount of tax that you pay to the government. But it's a bit of a process to go through to claim the disability tax credit, but it can be substantial. It can be up as much as $8,600 a year, but you have to have a fairly high income to be paid, to be able to use that credit. But a lot of the companies who advertise that we will help you get this credit will charge 25 to 30% of what you're paid retroactively. You can go back, they can go back 10 years and you can claim it back 10 years. So that's really good. And, I'm in the business of no shame, no harm. If somebody, if they feel it's overwhelming to try to walk through this application process themselves, and they say, I don't care if this company is going to help me get my credit, I'm willing to pay. That's fine. That's their decision. However, in most cases, it doesn't shortcut any of the requirements. Like a doctor has to sign off that it is a permanent, substantial disability that limits your abilities to function on a day-to-day basis. Still need the doctor needs to sign off on the application, still needs a lot of things to be done that way. So excuse me, all I'm saying is it's up to you. If you feel that you might be eligible for a disability tax credit, you can start doing some investigation and maybe talk to a social worker and ask about that. Just some smaller items for us that live here in Edmonton. Some nice things is that for the city of Edmonton, you can get a transit pass if your annual income is under 29,000. If it's between 29,000 and 33,000, your annual transit pass will only cost $139. A leisure pass, again, to be able to use all the facilities in town if your income is under $30,000. So interesting things to look at. I find a lot of seniors don't know about those. And finally, TELUS. Again, I can say all sorts of nasty words about all sorts of people, but TELUS, they've got a cell plan. If you are receiving if you're a senior receiving guaranteed income supplement, or if your family income is under 32,000, you can get a TELUS cell plan for $25 a month, which is fairly reasonable, and internet plans for $9.95 or $19.95 a month, depending on the speed of internet that you choose. So those a lot of small things. What I found for seniors, a lot of small things add up to the end of the day. So those are all interesting things that might apply. Again, I've got some links at the end of the presentation of places that you can go to check on various items. So financing for people that are still living in their own homes and want to remain in their own home, there's a couple of things. One that you'll see quite often advertised is CHIP, reverse mortgage. And that's basically what you're doing is, I think you need to have a minimum 50% ownership in your property. And it's basically, they will lend you money against the value of your house, and it will accumulate interest. Your loan will accumulate interest, but it's fantastic. It may give you have a choice of getting a lump sum payment or a monthly payment. It's very, very good. The only caution is that it is a mortgage. It does have to be cleared against your house. They put a lien on your house so that when you sell your house, that lien needs to be cleared, that you need to satisfy their money, their charge. And so you wouldn't buy a house without having a lawyer you shouldn't sign a reverse mortgage without having a lawyer. You need to walk through that process very slowly and carefully. A life lease is something else. Whew, this one gets a little bit complicated, unfortunately, but it's basically, there's a few seniors residences that say we offer a life lease, and it's if you sell your house or your condo for $200,000, if you enter a life lease and put $200,000 down against this life lease, it will reduce the amount of rent that you pay monthly. So it's sort of like you're getting return on your money. Yes, it's your $200,000 is tied up in this life lease, but because that $200,000 is tied up in your life lease, your monthly rent is reduced or even eliminated because of it. So that's a consideration. These are things that might help you stay in your house a little bit longer to provide better financing. The Rrsp, Seniors Home Adaptation and Repair Program. Again, this is sponsored by the provincial government, and for income, and it's to make modifications so that you can remain in your house. Your income needs to be below $75,000 a year, and basically it's a loan at a low interest rate financed by the government of Alberta. The Rrsp is basically it is a grant for lower income seniors who are using a wheelchair or a four-wheel walker. And what it allows is for up to $7,500 per person each benefit year, up to a maximum of $15,000. So that is, again, maybe installing a ramp to enter your house or a ramp to eliminate some stairs in the house. The only condition is that you have to be a lower income senior and that the installation has to be a permanent installation. The seniors property tax deferral, this can be, again, it can be, it's run by the province of Alberta, but instead of paying your property taxes each year, they are just deferred, and they accumulate interest along the way. So when you finally sell your house, before you sell the house, you need to, or as part of selling the house, you need to pay off what you owe on that property tax deferral. But if somebody's property taxes are $3,600 a year, that means that you would have an extra $300 a month that you don't need to spend. So again, it may be worthwhile to look into. The total cost of home ownership. This is something that a lot of seniors that I talked to said, well, I'm in my own home. I own it. I've paid off the mortgage. It's not costing me anything. Why should I sell my house? Why should I be paying rent instead of living in a place that I own? A couple of things about that. And the first thing is that home still suitable for you? Is it in a community? Do you have community support? Do you have good transit? All sorts of other questions. But then you have to look at what it costs. And these are just numbers drawn out of the air. Certainly gas and water and power. I should update with those numbers since for the last couple of months what they've been. But you can see this is a fairly modest budget, and it adds up to about $12,000 a year as a cost of remaining in your own home. And a lot of people don't realize this. And then the other question that I have sometimes when somebody says, well, it's not costing me anything, is when was the last time you replaced the roof or the water heater or the furnace or this or that? And what I found working with seniors is quite often we're cruising along, things are running very, very well, and then there's suddenly an oops, and that oops is a big upset. So it's running well, but suddenly, I'm in a condo and I get a notice of a extraordinary assessment of $40,000 that I need to pay because something's wrong with the building or something like that. Or my roof needs to be repaired, replaced, or the other things that need to be done. So I'm just saying that, you have to always think about, is the place you're currently living in, is it suitable to your needs? That's the most important. Do you have a community support? Are you, is it give you the transportation access that you need, and so on? But also have a realistic look at what it costs you to be living there, and compare it to what it would cost you rent elsewhere. So moving on, everybody, budgets. I hate doing budgets. I hate, because it means looking at reality, and looking at reality can sometimes never be, can sometimes not be a positive event. But it's really important to know where you stand. How much money is coming in each month, how much is going out. And again, the fixed versus variable costs. When you talk of fixed costs, heat, power, water, mortgage, property taxes, those sorts of things. And this is just again, nothing, just numbers out of the thin air. But I think it's important to be looking at saying, what are my fixed costs? What are my fixed incomes? And most of us, we're on pensions. We might have a little bit of income from investments, but our expenses that we can't change, those are the fixed ones. They're the taxes, mortgage, utilities. Pretty much, we know they're going to be higher in the winter, lower in the summer. Transportation might be a little bit variable. You get into the variable areas of groceries, clothing, entertainment, and so on. And you notice that I put a line in there for savings. And that's, again, as tight as your budget is, and I really appreciate that people's budgets can be very, very tight. But as tight as your budget is, please try to be putting away just a little bit of a little bit of money every month. Because as I said, working with a lot of seniors, one of the biggest things that I've said was that sudden oops, things were going along well, and then suddenly I have an unexpected expense, and it's thrown my whole planning into turmoil. So just ask you to be mindful of that. Once you've done the work of going through a process like this, then you know what your variable, I can afford to go out for I really enjoy going out for dinner once a month with my friends. Well, how much is that going to cost me? What's that impact going to be? And so working on that, the senior banking, there is enough, first of all, a lot of banks offer, say, for seniors, there's a no charge account. But that's the monthly cost of the account. But what are the charges that go behind that? And that's a really important consideration, because every account has got some limits on it. So how much you can, withdrawals from ATM. I was working with one lady who lived in a rather sketchy neighborhood. She didn't like to have very much money on her. So she was going to the ATM and taking out $20 at a time just to go to the grocery store. That's great, except her bank was Bank A and the closest ATM was Bank B. And so every time she used that ATM, she got hit with a $5 charge. So a very important consideration. If you're going to be using an ATM, if you say, I want to deal with, for example, the Royal Bank, is there a Royal, and I'm going to be needing to use an ATM, does the Royal Bank have a lot of ATMs around that I'm going to be able to use? So some will limit the number of transactions that you can do by telephone or ATM. some will say you're only allowed to make 5 purchases a month using your debit card. Other ones have, an expensive per check charge. And then, if you can make direct deposits, that's great. But transactions within the branch, bill payments, withdrawals, transfers, deposits, all of those things, they can add up, and they can add up substantially. So the idea of a free account, you really need to look into that. And the government of Canada, and this has made my job so much easier because I'll put up a note later, but the government of Canada has got a financial tools page, which has got all sorts of calculators on it. And one of them, it is for banks. It asks you what province you live in, and it gives you a list of the banks and the qualifications on some of their accounts. Very, very helpful. So the cost of money, my favorite bugaboo: cash stores, money mart, payday loans, that sort of thing. Fortunately, a couple of years ago, Alberta capped the interest rate that could be charged on by these cash stores. Before the legislation passed, the effective annual rate was 593%. We're fortunate that they that the government changed the legislation, but now the stores are limited to charging only 59.9% interest per year. And this is the most expensive money that you can buy. And the cash stores are also, they train people into convincing you to roll over the loan, just to extend the loan. So you are perpetually in debt. And it's very hard. It's very painful. I understand if your animal, if your pet cat or dog, suddenly you need to go to the vet and it's a sudden $600, $700 bill. Our pets are part of our family. There's no question about it. You feel that you need to spend that money. If you don't have the money, you don't have any reserve, cash stores seems to be the easiest way, but it is the most expensive. Sometimes it might even be worthwhile to use your credit card to pay off the cash store. Credit cards are expensive, but they're not as expensive as cash stores. So one of the things that you do also need to know about credit cards is if you have an outstanding balance, and you're just paying off a certain amount each month, for almost every single card, if you have an outstanding balance, you're paying interest on that. But you go into Safeway and buy $25 worth of groceries today, you start paying interest on that $25 purchase as of today, as soon as you've added it in. So again, the best possible thing is to get your credit cards down to zero every month. One of the ways that can happen is by using a line of credit. A lot of banks, if you are fairly consistent, you don't have to be very, very wealthy to have a line of credit. You just need to talk to the bank. And sometimes you may be able to take out a line of credit or a personal loan from the bank and pay off your credit cards or the cash store, and result you're paying a lot less interest. Certainly that line of credit or a loan, it's always going to be substantially cheaper than the other two options. And finally, sometimes if we get overwhelmed and we just can't see a way to get clear, debt relief, and that's talking to a place like Money Mentors, which you might see ads on every once in a while. They're the only agency licensed in Alberta to offer what's called an orderly repayment of debts. And that is, you go in, you talk to them, and bring in all your statements. And they may say, well, look, we will talk to your creditors, and we will say, look, you can't get money, can't get blood out of a stone. This person is so close to the edge that we really need to do something. So how about instead of your normal outrageous amount of interest that you're charging, you only charge this person 5% interest, and we will work with the client to make sure that your debt is paid off. It can sometimes work. It's making arrangements. One of the things that they will certainly help you with is counseling about what, how expenses are being handled by you and how much your debt is, and giving you a realistic picture of what your debt is, and saying, we can work with you, we can help you try to arrange things. And the final, of course, is bankruptcy. I should have started off with, we live in a very shame-based society, and everybody, I just run up against this all the time. Bankruptcy, it's a legal process that has to be handled by a bankruptcy trustee, and the debtor must be able to show that even with liquidating all of their assets and living on a minimum monthly allowance, it's still not possible to repay all the debts that they have. The first step is to meet with a credit counselor like Money Mentors, and then they will help you walk through that process and help you decide if bankruptcy is an option, and then you need to go through a licensed bankruptcy trustee. It can be very depressing, again, on that whole shame-based thing that we're talking about, but it can sometimes be the only thing. Credit card calculator. Again, I give you that financial tools website at the end, but you can see on this that if you have a monthly payment of $75, if you owe $3,000 and you're paying off $75 a month, even if you add nothing else to your bill, it's going to take you 5.78 years to pay off that debt and pay an interest of $2,200 on a $3,000 loan. So this is, unfortunately, it's the hard reality of having a credit card that you need to look at this, but that's why, unfortunately, credit cards are very, very easy to obtain, and it's so easy for people to fall into debt. My suggestion is, once you've managed to pay off your debt, just take your card and freeze it in the freezer, or whatever. But again, I will give you a link to a credit card calculator later on. And we're finally down to the important taxes. Reason to file. If your taxes are not up to date, Service Canada can withhold your OAS and guaranteed income supplement. And also, in order to qualify for the Alberta Seniors Benefit, this Alberta Seniors Benefit people talk to the CRA and to verify your income and ensure that all of your taxes are up to date. So this is a really big reason. Shame. It happens. It happens to the best of us. I talked with a lady yesterday who had an accident 8 years ago, didn't file, and then each year said, oh my God, when tax time came around, oh my God, I can't file because I didn't file then. And each year it just gets more and more and more stressful. Any place like Sage or E4C or any tax preparer, if anybody ever says to you, why the hell didn't you file? How could you possibly let this happen? Let me know, and I will personally take them to task, because that is something that should not happen. Things do happen. People do get behind. The only positive thing to do is to say, here it is. How can I move forward? And that's what a tax preparer will do for you, is say, very sorry this happened. Let's just start getting this done. So you can go, there are various, if you're a low-income senior, which is a single under $35,000, there's a variety of places that you can get your taxes done for free. Sage is doing, can do back years. They can help you talk to CRA and get your past T4s and all of the rest. Pull together all of the information that you need. We're getting close to the end here. Rrsp, the advantage of that is that when you're earning more money in your career, you can, if you contribute $5,000 to your RRSP, you don't pay taxes on it. Then it goes into an RRSP. But when you decide that when you turn 71, you must convert your RRSP to a RIF, Registered Retirement Income Fund, and start drawing down that money and paying taxes on it at the time. So that becomes your own, that's how your RRSP becomes your own personal pension plan. Tax-free savings account, if you've got a little bit of extra money, put it into a tax-free savings account. You'll have, you can, that account can grow and become larger. The growth is tax-free. So, it's a great method of saving if you've got a few extra dollars to put it in. Then the last couple of items is, and this is Aaron talked about last week, at some point we may not be capable of making sound decisions for ourselves. And so arranging a personal directive, a personal directive you can do today and get it finalized, no problem. If you lose capacity, suddenly it's a court process that you need to go for guardianship. Your friend needs to go and apply for guardianship. Same, power of attorney, you can sign that off with a lawyer today, end of problem. If you lose capacity, then they have to apply. It becomes a trusteeship, again, through the court process. And we always need to worry about financial abuse. And so picking the people who are going to make decisions for you is, my brother-in-law is a great guy, the best guy on the planet, but he's declared personal bankruptcy 3 times. That's not really my brother-in-law. That's just holy. I wouldn't want to get sued by him. But no, seriously, you may have a really good friend, but they may not be the right person to entrust personal decisions or your money decisions to. So you need to be worried about financial abuse. And then the last, we talked about this before, fraud, scams, and bad relationships. Just, you need to be aware of a few things. If it's instant wins, you can't win if you haven't entered. Advanced payment frauds, we talked about a couple of times before. And these scams get better and better all the time. So romance fraud, just be really, really careful with who you're trusting your money. I got a call last week from supposedly Visa Credit saying that there had been some illegal charges, or some questionable charges against my card. That's happened before, except this time they started to ask me how did I pay off my card? What bank was I using to do that? And what was my debit card number? And all sorts of interesting things. Boy, it sounded legit. I just hung up on them. I phoned Visa and said, hey, is there a problem with my card? They said no. So that's it. Here are the helpful websites, and I will ask Kim if she will send this out with our survey. This Government of Canada Financial Tools is fantastic. It's really, it's an amazing resource. You can have a mortgage calculator. Is it better to, buy or lease a car? The credit card calculator. All of these things are there. So please, if you need to use those tools, they're great. The Alberta Seniors Benefit, that's great. Canada Pension Plan, or, it talks about OAS, Guaranteed Income Supplement, and Canada Pension Plan. Make Tax Time Pay is a program sponsored by United Way, and that is to help low-income individuals, not only seniors, but low-income individuals get their tax filed, and yes, they will do multiple back years. The same with Sage. Sage's qualification is you need to be over 55 or on AISH and low income, but Sage also has got a fleet of social workers who are very willing and anxious to help you with any questions that you have. Please, I'm rattling on here, but please never feel trapped. Always reach out and never allow shame to affect your decisions. If you made a mistake in the past, you made a mistake. But I can guarantee you, if you talk to a social worker and said, I made a mistake, their reaction is going to be, I'm so sorry to hear that. It's not going to be, how the hell could you have done something so horrible? It is, we really need to get past that. I've just seen so many people that got locked into bad decisions or so on, just because they were ashamed to talk to somebody about it. So that is the end of my presentation. I'm sorry I went on a little bit long, but I will stop my sharing now. And let me think. I see there is one question.
In the chat, Eric, while you were talking,
Yeah.
Roy, you were talking about the disability tax credit, and Roy said his understanding is if you are supporting someone that qualifies for disability tax credit, that credit can be transferred to you as the support person.
Yes, that's my understanding as well, Roy, and that's a very good point. I should have put that in. But yeah, that's the disability tax credit. Like I say, it's a little bit, and the government of Canada, it very, very clear to say, exactly what the qualifications are, but it has to be a substantial limitation that interferes with your day-to-day living, and it can be multiple. So if you have have a problem walking and you also have a problem communicating, add those two together and it might become something that's eligible.
Oh, sorry, Eric.
Yeah, no, okay. I just see that Michael's hand is up.
Yeah, that's what I was
going to. Roy next. So Michael, go ahead.
Thank you. So I have a comment and then a question. And thanks, Eric, very much. I appreciate it. And my comment was just as you said about Service Canada, which I found very responsive. The only thing I would add is sometimes you can wait a long time to actually get someone. So just keep that in mind. Every once in a while, that can be frustrating. But otherwise, my question is with Sharp, can that apply if you own a condo as opposed to a whole house?
I believe so. So, but again, that is something that, maybe I should add in, I'll add in a link to Alberta seniors.
Yeah, I've never looked at that. Sharp. Okay, thanks.
But I believe it is applicable. If you have, I think the qualification is you must have, either for a condo or a house, I believe the qualification is you must have at least 25% ownership. So, yeah. You might have a mortgage for 75%, but if you own 25%, right. Hopefully that's the answer. Roy, you had a question.
Yes, please. Regarding the legal documents that you were suggesting, power of attorney and directives, and I'm assuming a will is something that would be stressed. Yep. Is there any particular firms that would be recommended that seniors use, or are you on your own to try to find somebody? Because it can be quite costly.
It can be. And unfortunately, I know when I was doing social work at Sage, they would not allow me to recommend any law firm because of the possibility of liability coming down if you had not been well served or something like that. Aaron from Denton's is a fantastic resource. And, that was last week's presentation. I think it was last week. Time goes by so quickly. But yeah, last week. Okay. But, if you sent a note to her and said, listen, I'm a low income senior. I can't afford to pay very much. Can you give me an idea if Would Denton's be able to help me? Can you recommend somebody else? My dealings with Erin so far have been, she's not out there marketing herself or Denton's. She's out there to ensure that seniors get good services. So if you say I'm a really low income, can you recommend somebody who can do this well for me at a low price? I'm pretty sure she can get back to you with that.
But it would have to be low income?
Yeah, I think if it's one of those things that people, it's one of, sort of implicit biases that we always grow up with. Never to ask a dentist, how much is this going to cost? Never ask a lawyer, how much this is going to cost? Never, those sorts of things. Don't be shy. Say, how much is this going to cost me? They have set rates. And if you walk in and say, I've got an estate worth $16 million and I want it split 40 different ways, then you go on an hourly basis. But I think that they have standard rates for will, power of attorney, personal directives, and you can ask, what is your price? And they may ask you a few questions about how detailed the process is, but they should be able to give you a range of, $800 to $1,000 for a will. That sort of thing.
Okay.
Don't use those numbers. Those are
No.
Off the top of my head. Jan, you have a question.
I'm on the same wavelength as Roy. Do you have a sort of a template of a personal directive or of a power of attorney that's available?
Yes, certainly a personal directive. I'm reaching way back into the memory slots here, but a personal directive, there are, I think, 9 domains, and that is who I can associate with, where or if I can work, what are giving somebody the power to decide where you will live. The money is another thing, like how much your rent is going to cost, but the personal directive allows that person to say where you are going to live. Again, end of life treatment and that sort of thing, medical care, medical decisions. Yes, there is, I believe, and I will have a look for it and send this on to Kim, but I believe that the government of Alberta does have a standard personal directives form that you can start working with. The enduring power of attorney, I don't think they have that as a template. I think it's driven individually by the lawyer, but again, that's something that you really need to check.
Thank you.
Back to you, Roy. Your hand is up again.
I just wanted to state, just so Jan knows and others, that you can have different types of power of attorneys. Enduring power of attorney is one type, and that comes into effect if you are incapacitated. But if you can have a power of attorney, so you're going to go away for 6 months and you want someone to deal with some affairs of yourself, that can also be used. But once you become incapacitated, that type of power of attorney cannot come into play. You must have an enduring.
Yeah. And the other thing about that is a lot of us watch, and this is from personal experience, watching television and from the States or from Ontario and that sort of stuff. And yeah, power of attorney looks after everything. And so many seniors I've said, do you have a personal directive? Well, no, I've got a power of attorney, and that's settled. A power of attorney is only good for real estate, taxes, and money.
Correct.
Everything else is personal directive. Where I will live, who I can associate with, can I work or can I not work? All of those, like I say, I believe, again, off the top of my head, I believe it's 9 individual domains, and that you're setting out their power to dictate those various domains.
Eric, can you just spell Denton, that firm, so I could look it up?
Denton.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but Erin was our speaker last week, So Roy, I think we have your email address. We can send her contact information to you.
Perfect. If that could be arranged through Kim or whoever,
Yeah.
that would be great. I have to say, I find that sometimes we say that we're going to send out the presentation, but I never get them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have to have a look at that.
So if we could.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I could add to that, Erin was going to send us her slide presentation. We still haven't received that yet.
Okay. We'll, so a couple of things. We will have to get that information. I think I have Erin's contact information myself, but if not, I will source that and send it out to you, because yeah, she is, she's really a very, very good person and donates a lot of her time to the community and is extremely knowledgeable. This is her area of expertise.
Roy, thanks for that feedback. And if you're missing something, can you just send me a personal email and I'll try and take care of that?
Sure.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
I have one more if no one else does.
Sure, go ahead.
And that's about income splitting.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you know about that, and can you share some info?
I am single.
Income pension splitting, I mean.
You can. I'm fortunate. I've been single now for about 18 years, so I know that income splitting and pensions are income, simple. So I know that splitting can occur, but that is something that you need to talk to,
I know that TurboTax, if you buy that program, it alludes to that, and it will optimize how much you can split. Yeah. But I just wasn't clear if it has to be the same every year and that type of thing. So
unfortunately, I can't tell you, but I thank you mentioning TurboTax. I know that I believe it's still the case. I know UFile, which is another tax program, and TurboTax are both really well designed, that they step you through. If you want to do your own taxes, they step you through the process one piece at a time. That if I think for UFile, if your income is as a single, if your income is under 25,000, there is no charge. But I think to buy the package is only about $25. So if you feel confident in doing your own taxes, great. But if not, and you're low income, please do consult like Tax Time, Make Tax Time Pay, or one of those other ones. Jan?
Well, we're down to our final 2 minutes. I'd like to thank you, Eric, for such an educational, inspiring talk. That was just wonderful. And thank you too to Kim Lauren for his technical assistance. And thank you to all of you for participating with us today. I hope you will join us next week when Christopher Wells, Darren Hagan, and Michelle Lavoie will talk about creating a walking tour of our Edmonton queer history. Please fill out the survey. We appreciate your feedback. And if you need to reach us, we're at Aging with Pride at pridecenterofedmonton.ca. And now I return our meeting to our host, Kim.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. We'll see you next week.
Okay. Bye-bye.